Hi, my name is Kalandra, and I am coming back to YouTube. For my subscribers, I know you guys are used to seeing a lot of wig tutorials and wig videos. However, I am coming back to YouTube, sharing a little bit different information. I do think I will still do wig tutorials and other things, but for now my focus is just sharing my personal story. I just feel like hopefully I'm able to help someone else. One thing about it is that when God is telling you to do something, you can run from it as much as you want, as long as you want, but God will always bring you back to where you're supposed to be and exactly what you're supposed to be doing. So that is where I'm at right now. I just feel like this has to happen. I've been through so many different things, and somehow I've been able to get through of all those hurdles and all those challenges. It helped me to build character. It made me who I am today. So I wouldn't change anything about anything that I've been through and currently still go through. I just try my best to learn from it and just to keep going. So with that being said, this video has been very, very, very difficult to put out. My journey that I will be sharing is going to be probably one of the hardest things that I've ever done in my life. No one wants to be vulnerable. No one wants to share their personal experiences and feelings, especially when they're not necessarily good. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and get into my story. So my mom and my dad, they had a very complicated relationship. It wasn't all bad. There were some good moments, but they did fight a lot. Domestic violence was definitely present in their relationship for sure. My mom and dad, they did fight a lot, and it was physical a lot of the times. So when I was about 7 years old, my mom decided that she was gonna move to Georgia. She just couldn't take it anymore, and she wanted a fresh start. So that's what we did. My mom, my little sister, and I, we moved to Georgia. And it was okay being here. I don't remember a whole lot about my experience being here. We were only here for a short period of time. About a year and a half later, my dad and my mom decided to work it out. My dad asked her to come back to New York. So he did. So she did. We ended up moving back to New York when I was about, I want to say, 9 years old, around about. We moved back to New York. So once we were back in New York, things were going well at first, but shortly after that, the infidelity started, the fighting, the arguing, the fighting started back. So she kind of just put herself right back in that same situation. And I just remember asking my mom as a 9-year-old kid, like, why don't you just leave, and just like, please just leave the situation. And she was just saying how she couldn't leave, how she loves my dad, and just saying that she's never really had a family dynamic, and that's something that she's always wanted. It's something that she's always hoped for. So she was just gonna do whatever she possibly could to make it work. So of course I didn't understand it, but I just left it alone. And a lot of times when they did fight, they did try to keep it away from my little sister and I. Like, they wouldn't fight in front of us all the time. Like, they would either try to make sure we would sleep or not home. So when we would get back home, we would see, certain bruises or certain things on my mom. And we pretty much already knew what it, what it was, where it came from. A fight that was very vivid for me between my mom and my dad. My mom and my dad, they did love each other. But it was just, it was just complicated. It was toxic. They fought. In this one particular time, I don't know if anybody knows about how apartments were in New York, but they were kind of railroad. So when you walked through our door, it was the kitchen, then it was the living room, my mom's room. I'm sorry, our room, and then my mom's room. In our room, it was no division between our room and the living room, so you kind of see straight through to the kitchen. And my mom's room had a door. But my little sister and I were sleeping in our room, and I just woke up because I heard screaming, I heard yelling. So I woke up out of my sleep, and I got up to see what was going on. And my mom and my dad were, they were fighting. Well, I guess you could say that. My mom was on the floor, and my dad was like standing over her, and he was like kicking her. So I ran over to her, and I just, got on top of her and just tried to cover her. And she's just crying, she's hysterical, and I'm crying, I'm yelling, stop, stop. And my dad, I look up at him, and his face, he's just so angry. I could barely recognize him. He was very angry. So because I was covering my mom, my dad grabbed the umbrella and he tried to hit my mom with the umbrella, and he ended up hitting me with the umbrella. So I, looked at my mom, and she's just crying, and she's just like, Landy, my tooth. And I looked at her mouth, and her front tooth is like chipped. It's like halfway gone, and she's just crying so badly. And I'm still yelling, stop. She's bleeding and stuff. And once my dad hit me with the umbrella, that kind of ended that fight. He ended up leaving, and my mom, I don't know, I guess we ended up going to bed. And the next day my mom went to the dentist, and they ended up having to pull the tooth next to the one that was chipped, I guess because of the impact of the kick to the mouth. So now she had a missing tooth and a chipped tooth, and to this day my mom still has issues with these, front teeth, just not having the means to get it properly fixed. So that, I just felt like I needed to share that because that fight haunts me. It stays with me. I was 9 at the time that fight happened. And that's just one of those things that you want to forget about and you can't. So I did want to share that, and also just say that my dad adored my little sister and I. My mom and my dad, they loved each other. My dad would have done anything for my little sister and I. He truly loved us, and we loved him. As a child, you don't see flaws in your parents. You love them unconditionally. You love them wholeheartedly. And that is exactly how I was with my parents. The things that happened in my dad and my mom's relationship didn't change my opinion on how I felt about them and how much I loved them. Even when I had the conversation with my mom about leaving, it wasn't because I hated my dad or I disliked my dad. It was just because I was tired of the fighting. I was tired of the arguing. And I wanted my mom to be, happy. So when I was, I have a little sister, she's 3 years younger than me. And growing up, we went to our cousin's house a lot. We played double dutch. We just walked around the block, walked to the store. Like, we spent a lot of time at our cousin's house, and that's my dad's side of the family. So we absolutely enjoyed being over our cousin's house. Like, that was amazing to us. We looked forward to going over there. We wanted to go every single weekend if we could. And my cousins, they came over to our house sometimes too, but we always had more fun at our cousin's house because we kind of had more, we did have more freedom. My aunt was very laxed. So we were pretty much able to do, what we wanted to do. So when I was 10 or 10 and a half, somewhere around there, my mom ended up getting pregnant again, and she gave birth to my baby brother. I was just about to turn 11 when she gave birth to him. Now at this point she had 2 girls and she had a boy. And it was still a very complicated situation with my mom and dad. So fast forward to about a week before my baby brother's birthday. His birthday is on May 12th. So about a week before my baby brother's birthday, on this particular day, my little sister and I went to our cousin's house, and my baby brother stayed with my mom. So I don't really remember a whole lot about this particular day being at my cousin's house. I did recently speak to my cousin, and she was just telling me how we went to Empire Skating Rink. If anybody out there is from New York and around my age, I'm 32, then you know that Empire was like the funnest place to go as a preteen teenager. It was good music, we danced, wine, we just had a lot of fun at Empire. It turned into, I think I said that, it turned into teen night after a certain time. So we always enjoyed going to Empire, but this particular night, Sammy was performing, and we were obsessed with Sammy. My little sister didn't come to Empire. It was just me and a couple of my other cousins that was around my age. So this is what my cousin's telling me. So she was just like, how excited we were to go and how much fun we had. So once we got back to the house, we, I don't know what we did, but this is the point I remember from. We were all asleep. It was about eight of us in the living room at my cousin's house. And we were just all scattered around the living room sleeping. And the only thing that, I remember was hearing a bang on the door, like a boom, 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 boom. And it was, whoever it was, they knocked several times. And my aunt, she finally got up and went to the door. By this time, all of us, all of the cousins, myself, we were all awoke from the banging. So once my aunt opened the door, I'm sorry, please hold. So once my aunt went to the door, she opened the door, and it was police. And the police was just like, can we talk to you for a moment? We just have something very important to speak with you about. So my aunt stepped outside the apartment, and my cousins and I, we were all in the living room, and we were just speculating about what we thought might have happened. At first we thought it was something happened with my cousin's dad. We were just taking guesses at what we thought might have happened. We were all wrong. None of us could have guessed what actually happened. My aunt came back in. She was hysterical. She was crying. She was very sad. So I don't remember if she told us that night or the next morning, but she pulled me and my little sister aside, and she was just like, I'm so sorry to tell you this. And she was, she was crying. And she was just like, your dad died. Your dad he passed away. And she told me that my mom killed my dad. And that my little sister and I would have to stay, with her for a while. So once she said that, I pretty much went very numb. I did not cry. I was just hurt and extremely numb. Like, I couldn't believe that it was real, what she was saying. So we're at my aunt's house, and my aunt is planning funeral arrangements for my dad. I remember wearing a white dress. I remember going to the funeral. I remember not crying at the funeral, but feeling very, very sad and very numb. And a lot of things that's happened to me as a child, I cannot remember. And I feel like the reason why is because that was my coping mechanism. I had to make myself forget certain things, and when you do that, you forget things that you don't want to forget. But that was my coping mechanism, and a lot of things that happened I don't necessarily remember. I just remember bits and pieces, and that's what I'm sharing. So my mom did go to jail. I remember seeing a picture of her after that situation happened, and it was just the most graphic, most heartbreaking thing that I ever seen, like, in my life. It was her booking picture. So basically, my mom and my dad went to a party. They got into an altercation. There was a whole lot going on. When they got back home, the altercation continued, and they were fighting at the house. My mom, she grabbed a knife, and she stabbed my dad, and my dad died. Once he was stabbed, he tried to crawl back to his car to drive down the street, but he ended up passing away. So that is what happened with that situation. And it definitely affected me. It definitely sticks with me. But my mom, she went to court for about 2 years, and my mom was sentenced to, I want to say, 5 to 7 years in prison. And I do remember going to the sentencing for my mom. I was about 13, almost 14 years old when my mom got sentenced. And I just remember my aunt, my dad's sister, getting up on the stand and just saying that she feels like my mom should go to jail. And I was very hurt. I was very angry. So after the sentencing, I called my aunt, and I was just like, I hate you. Why would you want? I lost one parent. Why would you want me to lose both of my parents? And at that time, I was a kid. I was confused. I don't hate my aunt. I understand completely where she was coming from. I understand why she felt the way she did. I have brothers, so I can only imagine how something like that feels. I love my family. I love my aunt. And for years after that, I didn't speak to my dad's side of the family. I distanced myself from them, and I kind of buried that life, and I started a new one. So once my mom was sentenced, my grandmother came from Atlanta, and she came to New York to come and get us. So she got me, my little sister, my little brother, and we went to go stay with my grandmother in Atlanta. And like I said, once I got to Atlanta, anything that happened prior to coming to Atlanta, I completely just pushed it to the back, as far back and down deep as I could. And I just kept going. And I kept moving forward. So, my mom ended up serving, I want to say, almost 4 years. And then, she was released. I'm gonna go ahead and end the story there, but there is so much more to share. Just to touch on the domestic violence situation, I just want to encourage anyone who may be going through something similar to what I went through as a child to talk to someone. Don't hold your feelings in, because it's very dangerous. That doing that led me to try, to commit suicide. So I just wanna say, if you're feeling, down, or however you may be feeling, your feelings are very much so valid. And just to reach out to someone and talk to them. If you are someone that's going through a similar situation to what my mom and my dad went through, please just get therapy, or just try to find some type of help. Parents don't realize how much their decisions affect the kids that may be involved. And with the thing about domestic violence is it's never over until someone is dead or someone is able to get away and leave the situation. Someone always has to be removed from the situation, whether it's by them finally being able to leave and escape the situation, or someone losing their life. And it's just a very, very tough situation to be in. It's a tough situation to go through. My mom and I, we're very close now. We have a great relationship, and it's something that she still struggles through to this day. Although it has been over 20 years ago, it's just a constant work. You have to constantly work at it. But again, if you are experiencing anything similar, if you have experienced anything similar, please get help. Please talk to someone. Please get a therapist. Comment down below if you've some of your testimonies, how you've made it through certain situations. There is just so much more has happened since then, from my experience with living with my grandmother, my experience with living with my uncle also lived there, and he was schizophrenic. So my experience with my siblings and I living there in that household, and it's still just being very toxic. My experience as far as, my home getting broken into and completely robbed dry after it caught on fire. My experience with the FBI kicking in my door and why that happened. Me getting pregnant at 17 years old. I got pregnant with my first child. But there's also some good. I married my best friend. I bought a home. I traveled. I had a lot of really good moments. But one thing about life is, as long as you're living life, you are going to have highs and you are going to have lows. you are going to go through things, and those hard times, they are hard and they are very, very difficult to get through and to go through. But one thing about it is the sun always comes after the rain. You know, you just got to get through that storm and stay positive and just know that God got you. And this is building character. This is making you strong, and this is preparing you for whatever else God has in store for you, so that you're strong enough to get through it and you're strong enough to handle it. Again, this is episode 1. There is so much more to come. I am going to be sharing my whole journey and my whole experience, and not even up until now, but even beyond this, because I am currently going through a very, very difficult and a very, very tough situation, which I will talk to you guys about later. And I don't know how I'm gonna get through. I honestly don't know how I'm gonna get through, and some days I'm just like, I just can't. But I listen to gospel, I pray, I get into my word, and I find the strength to keep going, and I know that it's gonna get better, and I know there's a happy ending to my story. I'm gonna make sure there's a happy ending to my story, and I'm not gonna give up until there is. So stay tuned. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know your thoughts on this, this whole situation. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'm out. Peace.